Hi, welcome to Absolutely Fabulous. My name is Gillian Fennell, also known as Station Mum 101. I love everything about agriculture, especially the people and especially communicating about what makes Australian ag so special.
And I'm Katja Williams, a beef, cattle and cropping farmer, and I love all things ag, and I'm also known as the ultimate farm wife. Together, we are Absolutely Fabulous, and we are talking all things agriculture beyond the headlines.
And we can't wait to give our opinion to you, and we hope you enjoy it.
So let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of Absolutely Fabulous. Today I'm here with Rach, and we're going to be talking about giving city kids a go in agriculture, as well as why it's important to match your roles with the skills that you have on farm. So Rach, thanks so much for joining me here on Absolutely Fabulous. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and why we should all be listening to you.
Thanks, Kat. Look, I live near Millthorpe in the Central Tablelands in New South Wales, and with my husband, Andrew, commonly known as Couch. No, we run about 300 breeders and some heifers and steers, and the heifer and steer portion sort of fluctuates with grass. That's across country that we have and country that we've leased, and we have 2 grown-up kids.
Wonderful. Rach, thanks so much for coming on today. Let's jump straight into our first topic, which we discussed this at a mutual friend's 21st party not too long ago. We thought, let's talk about giving city kids a go in agriculture, why that's important, what skills do they bring? Take it away.
I just think it's really important to anyone who's interested in agriculture. It's important for those of us who are lucky enough to be involved in already, to give them a go. If they're keen, bring them out. Like, just because you've won geography lotto and you happen to have been brought up on a farm, or you're lucky enough to have a lot of family or friends who have agriculture or farming in their background or in their properties, etc., I think we miss out on a lot of skills if we don't let people who are interested become involved, sort of thing. And I guess we really saw it from, I was looking at an agricultural Facebook group, and a young bloke had put up a really excellent post looking for work experience in January. This is sort of last year, and he'd just written it so well. And he was from Sydney, and I sort of turned to Couch and said, I'd really love to give this kid a go because it's close to Sydney. His family can come out and check where he's going to so that they can feel comfortable. And I actually felt like I didn't want him to be taken advantage of by someone going, cool, cheap labour or free labour for 3 weeks, because he'd said that he was happy to work for the experience. So I contacted him. I said, look, we'd be really happy to put you on. And it was quite funny because I said, look, here's information about me. Here's all my contacts. You can show your parents that I am a real person, etc. And they're very welcome to contact me. And so it was funny because his mum phoned me the next day and said, now, we didn't actually know anything about this. And I said, oh, that's okay. I've been through that. My daughter did the same, and she went to Sydney to work at a horse place. So I've been where you have been. But please feel free, if you're interested and you wanted to, please feel free to come out, meet us, see us in our natural habitat. And if you're comfortable with your son coming out to stay, then you're more than welcome. We have kids that are just a little bit older than him. And so that it all fell into place. They came out the following weekend. They came out to our place. We sort of took them for a bit of a drive and explained to them what we try and do with the cattle. Yeah, it just fell into place brilliantly. Jacob came and stayed with us for about 3 weeks in January, and he was brilliant. He worked so hard, and in return, we tried to, and it certainly was up to Gouge, he did a lot of it, but he tried to show him lots of different things. So it wasn't a case of, okay, excellent, we're now going to go fencing for 3 weeks, though he did do some. But we took him to the big cattle sales at the Carcoar sale yards and got him to speak to some of our agents and different people and explain what you're looking for with different markets and why these cattle might be better to buy instead of those cattle, etc., just to explain all that sort of stuff, because he was still at school, so he doesn't often get the chance to go to a big sale like that. So just that sort of stuff, and then trying to do different things and get the experience of working cattle and all that sort of stuff. So just, yeah, try and get him doing different things. So it was actual work experience. It wasn't just free labour sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it was an absolute pleasure sort of thing. It was really, really good to have him to stay as part of the family. And I think he really enjoyed the experience, and so did we. And I think as producers, we need to do that more where we've got the opportunity to do it. I think it's a really good thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's connecting that gap that Gillian and I talk all the time about, closing the urban and rural divide in agriculture. He's made the leap of faith to put it out there to someone to help him understand agriculture, to understand the beef production business that you've got. And it's really important that when people are reaching out like that we take that opportunity to be like, yes, let's show you. So I just want to rewind just a little bit, Rach. What was it specifically that he put in that post which made you think, yes, we're going to give this city kid a go?
His enthusiasm for it came across. And look, they're little things, but he'd written a really detailed post about himself, what he was doing, that he was trying to buy, the odd steer or something, either off Facebook Marketplace or Gumtree or what have you, to fatten them. And like he was interested. He was doing ag at school. His enthusiasm for it really shone through, and the fact that he'd really taken the time to write a well-structured post about himself, it just came through, sort of thing. And look, it was convenient. We were only sort of 3 hours from Sydney, and he said that he didn't have a car, and it's like, but that's okay. He could jump on the train if he needed to. So I also sort of thought, well, if this went ahead, hopefully his family would feel comfortable about him coming to stay with us as well. So there were a few little things that sort of slotted in, but it was just his enthusiasm for it shone through, sort of thing. And he was a really hard worker, sort of thing. It's bridging that divide as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think some of his biggest takeaways were, and what was his perceptions of what he wanted to do? Did they change between when he first came on the farm and 3 weeks later? Did he have more of an idea of what he wanted to do? Had that changed?
I think it's probably cemented it more as to he wanted to keep going into agriculture and certainly into cattle. He really enjoyed that. And so being able to, as I say, I think the experience of being able to go to the sale yards and then look at, like, Gouge took him around and they'd look at a lot of different pens of cattle, and what we liked about those were not so much about those particular cattle, this or that. I think that was really good, and to find out what buyers are looking for as well, to meet particular markets that they're buying for. So I think it was just that sort of experience, and I believe it sort of just cemented it more that's what he was interested in doing.
Yeah, that experience is something that you just can't learn that in a textbook. Even if you've read it, you've got to experience it to be able to fully understand the scope of what it is that you do at markets, what it is that producers are breeding specifically for. So that's incredible experience that he got to have with you guys. When it comes to looking for, say, the next person, will you be going back to the same Facebook group? Will you be looking at other resources for where people put up posts? Where, if someone is looking at giving a young person an opportunity in ag, where should they be looking?
I'd probably have a chat to the ag teachers that I know. If I was looking, and I know I have had some approach me before too because of that. I'd probably actually just talk to ag teachers and say, have you got, young kids that aren't necessarily off farms that just need somewhere to go to start learning? I think that'd be as good a start as any.
With your experience in the industry and talking to other people who are farmers as well, what do you think that hurdle is between letting people who haven't won the location lotto, who haven't grown up in family farming businesses and had that opportunity? What do you think the hurdle is between other people wanting to give young people a go in agriculture? What do you think that biggest hurdle is?
Wonder if part of it is they think it becomes too hard, and that whether that's in perceived or actually they've had challenges with maybe not quite getting the right person who is genuinely interested in trying to have a go, or if it's a perception of this is all too hard, or if it's a perception of the youth of today, or any number of, as I say, that are all perceptions.
Do you think that is part of that is the paperwork and additional policies and insurance people have to get in place to be able to have someone on farm for work experience? Was there anything additional that you needed to have in place before you could have someone out on the farm?
We didn't put anything additional in there. I'm pretty sure our whole farm package possibly covers that type of arrangement. But at the same time, I'm in my role on the farm and with Gauges too, but we're both proactive about keeping people safe and explaining what we're doing in the yards, this and that, and just it's those simple things of if you're shutting a gate behind cattle, don't be standing behind the gate, be to the side of it, sort of thing. So if the gate comes back, it's going to miss you. Like we both like to do it right on farm anyway. There's always areas for improvement, as there is with any industry, but we're pretty careful in that respect as well. And there'll be things that we'll just say, look, we'll get that job done so that we're not putting someone in harm's way as well, sort of thing. So I think we were very careful with that. But I mean, that's common sense anyway.
Yeah.
We were sort of only talking today with the weaners and some improvements we've made in cattle yards and things like that we really like, because it just makes it safer, whether it's for me, whether it's for a young person, whether it's for me in 20 years' time, sort of thing.
So let's use that to roll into our next topic, which we were going to be talking about using our skills that we have for the correct roles. Now, when we were talking about this, we were talking farm specific, but let's open that up to the broader urban rural divide. Like a lot of people from agriculture come from other backgrounds, other jobs, other roles. How do they identify their skill set and how do they put that into the role that they're doing on farm?
Interesting question. I suppose so. I'll relate it back, I guess, to what Gouge and I do. And so up until just a few years ago, we were opportunistically trading steers on a small block. That was easy. And then we'd been chasing lease country for a long time, and just a whole lot of factors came together. We leased more country. We ended up buying more country. We had the opportunity to take on a really nice line of breeding cows. So we went from our little opportunistic trading to drinking from a fire hose, and that was a very big learning curve. So I enjoy learning and I enjoy looking at things going, how can we do it better? What can we learn? So I'd sort of been listening to different podcasts and this and that, and there was a producers conference workshop being held up in Queensland, and I said to Gouge, I'd really like to go to this if we can. And he was like, yeah, can we go in another 12 months? Because just can't make it happen. And I said, no, I can, we'll have heifers starting to calve 2 weeks later, this and that. And I said, look, I understand that. I can't be reactive for another 12 months. I need to be proactive. If you can't get away, I can understand that, but I'm going to be brave and go on my own. He said, no, if you really need to think we should go, then we'll just make it happen. And we did. And what was one of the things that we came out of that was match skills to roles and have an organisational chart. So it was like, even if there's only 2 of you, have an organisational chart. Who's going to be CEO? And Gaz turned to me and said, you need to be CEO because I need someone to make me accountable. And the fact that trying to get him into the office is like trying to get a cat into a bathtub of water. So that worked well. So he's the ops manager, I'm the CEO. So I run that business side. I go looking for different grants that might be available or training courses that might be available, and I am always asking the questions of why do we do this? I've been reading about that. Is that suitable to our business? And I filter through a huge amount of what I read. I just go, no, that's not relevant to us, so that he doesn't get inundated with a million different things, but it will be, I've found this, I think this is going to be helpful for us. And then with me running all that side of stuff, and then all the bookwork side of it, the business side of it, the banking side of it, that leaves him free to work out which mobs are in which paddock for how long, how much grass, all the feed budgeting, what have we got ahead of us, what are we going to sell. And then it comes together. Like, I like working in the yards as well, and I like checking cattle, and it always takes me several hours where it can take him 20 minutes, particularly when there's calves on the ground. But we bring both those skills together to make the big business decisions as well. And I can think of an example last year when we were just looking at different cattle that were slated to be sold, and it was working out, okay, well, do we sell now or do we sell in 8 weeks' time? And I said, okay, just been listening to a market report predicting that the market's going to be at this in 2 months' time. How many kilos do you think you're going to put on them in that time frame? Our interest rates at this. Okay, they could make that. They make this now. And together we made the decision, we'll sell them now. The money goes into the bank. And it's all just based on a business decision, as well as feed in front of you and all that sort of stuff. So that helps us in the business side of things, of we've yet to regret a decision sort of thing, because it's all made based on the information we have at hand. And we've always sort of said confidently that we'll never regret a decision we make either. We'll learn from it. If we 3 weeks down the road, it's like, oh, yeah, we could have done that differently. But everything we've done so far has always been based on the information we have at hand, as well as planning into the future as well. Sort of thing. So
it sounds like you've got some feed loop. You're practicing feed loops where you're doing the self-reflecting, you're doing the planning, and then you're working out the next chapter and efficiencies. So we've got a lot of urban listeners who listen to the podcast as well. So for those who are unfamiliar with agriculture and why those roles are important, as you've explained, and how that links into the understanding of what is it that we're doing on farm and why are those roles so important?
I think for us, the roles are splitting our roles like that helps make things run smoother, because because we respect the roles, if that makes sense. So we don't have issues of us disagreeing in the yards, which is often common because you've just got two different people working things differently, or not knowing what the others is going on in the other person's head. So it certainly helps from that perspective. And I can think of a scenario when we were weighing steers or something like that, and I was helping in the yards, our daughter was helping in the yards, and Gouge was getting a bit frustrated with the pair of us. I said, right, well, the CEO, I'm pulling this up. You're ops manager. This is your show. You're running it, but your two staff don't know what you want doing. They say, well, we're doing this and we all know how to do this. And I said, well, we're not doing it the way you want it done. So we need to take that 5 minutes to explain exactly what you're looking for. And because it just wasn't coming from Rachel talking to her husband, it came from the CEO talking to the ops manager saying we need to do this better in the scenario that we're in. And that really worked for us. So for people, and it wouldn't matter whether they're from an ag background or an urban background, it's what are you interested in doing? Are you interested in working with animals? And therefore, if you're really interested in that, do you have livestock sense, or is that something that you need to learn from? And it's innate and can be polished, or it can be taught, but you're never going to do it naturally. And that's not a criticism. I'm never going to be fabulously great at maths, no matter how much tutoring I have, because my brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. But so it's finding out what your natural skills are and what you're naturally interested in too, because if you're interested in something, then you often do better at it because it's what you want to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Rach, what's something that you wish more people outside agriculture knew about agriculture?
I wish if they've heard certain information that's often inflammatory or things like that, I wish they'd be more curious to go, well, is that actually correct, or is it true? And how can I find that out? Sort of thing. Like, I know we've had friends of friends on our place who, we've had vegetarians, and I think someone was vegan, which is fine, and that's a choice. But and we were happy to explain, this is how we look after our cattle, because we want happy, healthy cattle, sort of thing. And so, and it was really lovely to have people who were interested in finding out about that. They were curious about how the food chain works, and it mightn't be a food chain that they choose to participate in by way of, they make a choice not to eat meat, and that's fine. But they were interested in how we looked after cattle and how we produced meat effectively. So I'm always open to explaining and showing how we do things, sort of things, be curious and think to yourself, am I getting factual information, or am I being fed something that's incorrect, but it makes a good headline, or it's inflammatory and it sort of just takes off like a freight train, but it's not actually correct. So I think be curious. Don't shut a conversation down without discussing it and being open to hearing what the other person's saying. And likewise, I think in agriculture, we have to be more open to listening. There's always going to be extremists in wherever you go, in any field, anywhere you go. But there's also people who just genuinely don't know. And they're the ones that we, in particular, that we need to be talking to and saying, well, okay, come and have a look thing, and be able to see for yourself and make your own mind up and ask questions.
Yeah, absolutely. What's one stereotype that you think is accurate for the industry, and what's a stereotype that you don't think is accurate?
That's an interesting question.
Got you on the spot with that one too.
Because I keep talking when the kids say, say a stereotype, not necessarily about agriculture. And I've always been very careful to say, don't judge an entire community or people or race, gender, anything by the actions of a few. Because anywhere you go in the world, there's millions of ordinary, everyday human beings just trying to live their lives, sort of thing. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I actually try really hard not to go down the stereotype track, because I keep thinking, no, we just see the actions of the ones that make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
There's more people out there that are just, as I say, getting on with their lives, sort of thing.
So we know from research that the urban-rural divide is getting wider and wider, and there's less connection with people's food than ever before, and agriculture. What's one thing you would like to see in the future come to fruition that you believe will help join the gap?
Well, I think, as I say, from an agricultural perspective, I think as producers, we need to be more open to having people who are genuinely interested in learning about agriculture to be able to have that experience, because years ago, you know, nearly everybody had someone in their family that had a farm, or friends had a farm, or they had that opportunity, whereas it seems to be less and less that people actually have that opportunity to get onto a farm and see where food comes from, whether it's cropping or livestock or oysters or anything at all in the food chain. So I think when people show that they're interested, we need to be open to saying, come and have a look. Yeah. And both sides have to have that respect of, I've been invited onto somebody's home and somebody's business to see how they operate. So I'm here to learn. And likewise, we need to be there to explain that someone might be coming from a different perspective. And so to explain how, like, livestock's always going to be a sensitive one, and to explain that as best we can, from start to finish, calves through to steers or old cows are treated incredibly well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. Rach, thank you so much for coming on Absolutely Fabulous tonight, and we will talk to you very, very soon.
Pleasure. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you for joining us on Absolutely Fabulous. If you've been listening along and enjoying all this content, which I assume you have, you've gotten this far, then you might also like Hatch's other podcast. It's the Ultimate Farm Wife Podcast. And I'm going to play the intro for you right now.
Welcome to the Ultimate Farm Wife Podcast. On this channel, we're going to be discussing all things marrying a farmer, moving to the land, and becoming integrated with a family farming operation. Whether you're moving to the farm for the first time or whether you're moving back into a family farming operation, we discuss the ins and the outs of all of it. So let's jump into today's episode.